Kiitos järjestäjille tästä mahdollisuudesta kommentoida, mutta muutan myös englanniksi, koska tässä muutkin on puhunut englanniksi, niin ei tule tällaista Finnish exceptionalism-tapausta. Professor Zeller's presentation, I think, was a cogent summary of recent politicians' attempts in the United States to exploit religion for partisan electoral purposes. I particularly found his definition apt when he talked about politicians trying to exploit religious resentment, not just identification. But I would add something to that. I would add that politicians have been exploiting not just religion, but anti-religious sentiment in the United States. The sentiment of secular and atheist people who are non-religious or actively opposed to religion. And I would put it to you that this attempt to exploit anti-religious sentiment is really the only way to explain what the Democratic Party was doing from John F. Kennedy to Obama in 2008. And that period, therefore, is an exception in American history rather than the rule. Because in those years, the Democratic Party accepted or embraced this Rawlsian theory about religion as purely a matter for private life, not to influence public policy in any way. And that position took over in that particular political party. Now, it is not a problematic thing to say if secularization theory is correct, but clearly it has not been correct in the United States or in most of the world. So the result was this gradual perception in the United States by the majority of Americans that the Democratic Party has become in some way an anti-faith party. That is a problem for a political party to start to be perceived in that way if the majority of the population is clearly religious, as continues to be the case in the United States. And it is a problem, I would argue, in our increasingly post-industrial societies with their identity politics, post-industrial or post-secular societies, which are cohered not least by this quest for meaning and certainty and predictability. Rapid change in a global context makes religion more vital, more popular, more widespread than it was before. And I would also argue that this is exactly what Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton and others in the Democratic Party recognized or realized after, around 2004, the second Bush re-election. They realized that the Democratic Party cannot succeed in the United States electorally over the long term in a situation where 70% or more of American people of faith vote for Republicans, election after election, and especially evangelicals did that. Where a situation where 60% or more of Americans want a highly religious president. And people of no faith, secular people, also 70% or more of them have voted for the Democrats, as Professor Zeller noted. But this doesn't help a political party much in electoral terms, because that's although a growing section, it is still a small section of the electorate. So I would argue that Obama recognized this, and he started systematically to use faith-friendly language and to appeal to people of faith back in 2008. Also that this clearly worked in 2008. But then Obama administration's policies have changed the constellation somewhat, so that evangelicals in 2008 could be recruited increasingly into the Democratic fold, but now they have been completely alienated again. All the progress on that front, at least, has been cancelled because of Obama's policies, perceived by evangelicals and at least half of the Catholics as highly restrictive of their religious freedom. And I would make one short point, additional point about Obama, about his faith, his personal faith. I think the situation there is slightly more complicated than Professor Zeller indicated. He mentioned Jeremiah Wright, Obama's former pastor, Obama's converter, the baptizer of children, close family friend for more than 20 years. Well, recently it was Jeremiah Wright who came out with the statement that, as far as he knew, Obama never was a Christian. According to Wright, Obama became a member of his church, Wright's church, because he was seeking for community, belongingness. He was suffering from an identity crisis. And secondly, Obama became a member of that church because he was searching for a new kind of public discourse, faith-inflected public discourse that allowed him to more effectively appeal to the people of faith, the American majority, than a purely secular vocabulary would. Now, there are some indications that his faith was real, that he was a real Christian, and is. And if so, his faith clearly is focused on social justice and social gospel issues, which certainly I would argue is an inalienable part of any true Christianity. But it is very much a private faith if he truly is a Christian. Some indications, recent indications, that while he has been president, he has undergone an evangelical conversion experience, but this has not been publicized much. In terms of the elections, I agree with all that assessment that the professor was giving us. Would emphasize, though, that evangelicals have been completely alienated from the Democratic Party. 78% of them voted for Republicans this time around, which is actually a higher number than have voted for Republicans in recent times, except the second Bush's re-election. Also, evangelicals were a higher percentage of the overall electorate this time around than they have been in recent times. So clearly they have been mobilized against the Democratic Party. And Mormonism, non-issue in this, certainly. But it is also clear that the Republicans can no longer win national elections solely on the basis of this evangelical and conservative Catholic vote. Latino Catholics in the swing states clearly are the decisive constituency where in these elections, and I would argue would continue to be so, and the Democrats have, the Republicans will have major problems in the future because this ethnicity and the immigration issue trump faith issues for this constituency. So the Christian right era certainly is over. Faith and party politics are in flux, and I would also argue that progressive Christianity is the rising trend in the United States, and Catholics, Latino Catholics in particular, fit into that. A couple of short points about foreign policy. I think that again was a very informative survey of how religion infuses US foreign policy rather than specific policy. It doesn't determine specific policies except in some exceptional cases. Points well made about the sacralization of the United States, in which the presidents have always engaged in this whole notion of American exceptionalism and worldwide mission, and all those very well made points. Also, that whole point about realist domination of US foreign policy making since the Second World War sort of parallel to this Rawlsian idea in domestic policy. I would though have liked to hear something, at least something, on some of the more specific issues, particularly this whole question of transnational faith-based civic movements and their activism, how American faith groups have led in building these kind of transnational faith-based networks on issues like AIDS and sex trafficking and the global debt issue, SRI, or socially responsible investment, and so forth. I think this is one of the key trends for the future. And I was also surprised that there was no mention of the International Religious Freedom Act, this bill passed under Bill Clinton, which has formally made it a key part of US foreign policy to not just defend but to forward the cause of religious freedom in the world. And how this contrasts in practice with the Hillary Clinton Department of State forwarding of the gay rights cause throughout the global south, because I would argue that this creates resentments against the United States, which act at cross purposes with international religious freedom. So transnational faith-based civic movements can act as a bridge between cultures, but this pursuit of gay rights, for example, can be seen as a form of Western cultural imperialism, which sort of negates the benefits that could be had from this transnational engagement. Just one statistic that wasn't mentioned, and I would like to leave this in your minds to ponder what this might mean, whether it might be connected with what I just said. When George W. Bush left the White House, according to this Pew Research Center survey, Muslim countries' opinion of the United States, 30% of Muslim countries still had a positive view of the United States, despite all that happened during the Bush administration. Today, in the same survey, it's only 15% of Muslim countries that have a positive view of the United States. Thank you.